Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Human Resources in History. This podcast aims to offer insights from 7,000 years of human history to help modern human resource practices. I am your host, Makoto, a data scientist and journalist.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jin, your co host. I'm an HR professional and I love history.
All right, Jin. So this is our ninth episode, right?
Yes.
Which topic are we exploring today?
Today, we will be discussing the fascinating topic of human interaction.
That's a broad
Yes.
topic.
Yes. In many ways, history evolves around the concept of human interaction, right?
Yeah.
Unless you study the so called big history, which is about the birth of Earth itself.
hmm
When you study this, the human interaction is not a main focus. However, other than that, it's definitely an integral part of the history.
hmm
And then we're gonna turn our attention to the Silk Road.
Silk
Huh?
Road. Nice.
I'm sure you know it, but what thoughts or images come to mind?
Well, I think humans started trading across regions, across countries, different parts of the world, um, thanks to the Silk Road, right?
Yes, correct. And what do you think humans traded on the Silk Road?
Well, as the name says, I guess silk.
Right, exactly. But what other goods do you think were exchanged along the Silk Road?
I think food, like peppers, spices, and what else? Yeah, tea leaves and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, right, many things, right?
Mm.
And can you think of any intangible things?
Like religions.
Yes, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yes, so today I'll be discussing how intangible aspects like religions or culture were exchanged on the Silk Road. And we're going to draw insights for HR and business leaders from these exchange.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So to begin, let me provide you with a brief history of the Silk Road as usual. So the Silk Road originated in the first century BCE when the Han Dynasty of China established a trade route to the Western world and India. And
hmm
on the other hand, in the western part of the world, the Roman conquest of Egypt in 30 BCE, it's during the Augustus, yes, Octavianus Augustus, yes, period. So I just forgot. Just after the Caesar died, this Roman conquest accelerated trade across Eurasia, and with the growing Roman Empire, there was a high demand for Chinese silk. So there were a lot of trades and then demands between China and the West, Rome, and of course between a lot of other cities and nations on the
hmm
Silk Road. Right. So it's been like it was more than 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And I found it funny that the Roman Senate tried to limit the import of Chinese silk.
Oh, okay.
Do you know
Why?
why? Can you guess?
Um, I think because it was expensive, and
Mm-hmm.
the I think the wealth of the Roman was it empire? I don't know. The wealth was kind of flowing out from Rome.
Yes, exactly. The first reason is gold outflow, and
Uh-huh.
so
Oh,
it's
gold. Okay, in
gold. Yeah,
exchange with gold.
it makes sense that Roman Senate wanted to control
hmm
the outflow of their wealth. But another reason is moral impropriety.
What? Really?
Yeah. So if you search for images of Roman people in silk, probably you have seen it before. But
Well,
Roman Senate thought that was kind of inappropriate.
wait, why? Because when you draw a Roman person,
Yeah,
most likely he or she is wearing
yeah,
like a white, shiny, loose
exactly.
clothes, like
Yeah,
tunicked clothes, right? It looks
yeah,
elegant to me.
probably was. It looked inappropriate for those people, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, back
Because it
in
was
yeah,
loose and
I think
um,
so. Yeah,
that's funny.
but we don't have the same sense.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was. I just found it funny.
yeah,
But
it
anyway,
is.
despite the challenges, the Silk Road continued to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And Although the Silk Road faced political conflicts throughout its existence, it played a critical and very important role in facilitating the exchange of not only goods but also ideas and culture across Eurasia, as I mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
For example, Buddhism spread across Asia from India to China and eventually to Japan, right?
Yeah.
Through the Silk Road. And in various artworks influenced both Western and Eastern cultures. And one notable example is Gandhara art, which combined elements of ancient Greek art with Buddhism.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
it's like ancient Indian art. When you Google it, it's very interesting. It's not like traditional Buddhism art. There is
Hmm.
more, like a detailed decorations and Greek style in a way.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it was not only from Orient to Occident, not only from East to West. They influenced each other in both ways.
yeah, exactly. And but in addition to cultural and religious exchanges, the Silk Road also contributed to the dissemination of technological innovations such as papermaking, printing, and compass.
Oh, okay.
So this is exactly what I wanted to share with you today.
Hmm.
These innovations as well, culture, ideas, and many things, many intangible things,
Hmm.
right? And but also we have to remember that there was some negative aspects, or the some exchanges were quite unfavorable for many people.
Like a disease or?
Yeah, exactly, right. So
Mm-hmm.
diseases were also spread through the Silk Road, with the Black
Hmm.
Death being one of the most devastating examples,
Hmm.
but also gunpowders as well,
Oh,
right. So
yeah. I
it
think it
brought
was
a huge
invented in China,
yeah,
right?
exactly,
Yeah.
and it brought along the Silk Road.
Yeah.
And then the gunpowder increased the Europe's power eventually, and far-reaching consequences on the global dynamics.
Yeah.
So that's in a way gunpowder's helped, but of course because of that many people died.
So maybe I'm rushing into the conclusion already, but we can draw an insight that it's important to encourage human interactions, to maybe exchange ideas, but make sure that bad ideas should not be exchanged in organizations or something like that. No.
Well, yeah, I think it's a it's a good insight. Well, we are getting there. But
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna dive deep into a little bit more. But before we delve into insights for HRs and business leaders, let's take a moment to explore the stark contrast found in the American continent. So the American continent, which
Mm-hmm.
is not the Eurasia, right? They have a completely different landscape.
Mm.
I mean, metaphorically. I mean,
Okay.
yes, different landscapes, different geographical structures, but
Uh-huh.
also the human interactions were not the same.
Hmm.
So
How?
let me explain a little bit more, right? Let me rephrase American continent as with the pre-Columbian Americas, right? So think about back then, like before the age of discovery, right?
Okay.
Before many Europeans went into the new continent.
Yeah.
So the pre-Columbian Americas presented unique challenges for long distance trade, and
Mm-hmm.
many villages were located inland, lacked major rivers, and had limited domesticated pack animals like horses.
Uh-huh.
So what happened is that these geographical constraints hindered the development of extensive trade routes among indigenous peoples, unlike the vast networks found in Afro-Eurasia.
Okay,
So as a
so each
yeah,
village was isolated among the
yes,
mountains and there
yes.
were no roads connecting to each other.
Yeah, well, there were some historical data that there were some exchanges, but not as active as those in Eurasia.
Yeah.
So as a
Hmm.
result, the exchange of trade byproducts like ideas or cultures, which could have had a significant impact on society, was not as frequent in the Americas,
Mm, interesting.
right? So this limited movement of people and goods in pre-Columbian Americas also contributed to the vulnerability of the indigenous people to diseases,
Haha. Can you
right?
explain?
Because they didn't spread the diseases. So, like when you get a cold or when you get whatever viruses,
Oh,
influenza, whatever,
yeah.
you basically you build your immune system and
Yeah,
then
okay,
get
that's so
stronger,
interesting.
right?
Yeah.
So this is a very unfortunate history.
Mm-hmm.
But when European conquerors during the Age of Discovery, like Cortes, when they conquered the new continent, this vulnerability had devastating effects.
Yeah. I know that a
It,
lot of people, indigenous people, died because of the
yes,
disease.
exactly. It is estimated that in some regions, up to 90% of the indigenous people perished,
That is so devastating.
primarily to diseases. This Colombian exchange, it's true that also, Western world brought something unfavorable, for example, syphilis,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that were brought from America to Europe during the Colombian exchange, caused numerous deaths upon the conqueror's return in
Mm-hmm.
Europe. I remember the 5 million people died.
Oh,
It's
wow. In
unfortunate. Yeah,
Europe,
in
really?
Europe. Yes,
Wow.
it's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
However, most of the major infectious diseases known today originated in Africa and Eurasia,
Uh-huh.
meaning that so many more people died in the new continent.
In Americas, yeah, because they didn't
Yeah,
have an immune system.
yes. And additionally, there was a significant technological gap between European military capabilities and those of the indigenous people. That
Mm.
suggests that the exchange of innovative ideas may have been less prevalent in pre-Columbian Americas compared to Afro-Eurasia because
Mm-hmm.
there were fewer exchanges compared to than those in Afro-Eurasia, right?
Okay.
So I'd like to share some insights from here, but well, before that, it's very important to clarify that we are not going to suggest the superiority of one civilization over another,
Mm-hmm.
or we're not going to justify the spread of diseases, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, in today's landscapes, companies with active cross-functional and geographical networks have a competitive edge over their less interconnected counterparts. And research shows that strong internal employee connections, this research is about LinkedIn connections, right?
Mm.
Strong internal employee connections foster innovation and bring economic value. So it
Oh,
was
okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
And in conclusion, as you mentioned, it's crucial to foster interactions among employees to build a strong organization,
Mm.
right? Do you have any good or bad examples from your career?
Yeah, I can talk about this experience. The newspaper company I
Mm-hmm.
was working for, it's called Nikkei. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually the biggest financial newspaper in the world. But one of the reasons that Nikkei is still thriving in this
Mm-hmm.
very harsh era for the old media. Like as you
Mm-hmm.
know, newspaper industry in general, it's been in decline since
Yeah.
a quite long time ago, at least like since 15 to 20 years,
Right.
when people started to gather more news on the internet, right? I think one of the reasons that Nikkei is still doing good is because of their cross-functional HR strategy. I can
Mm-hmm.
relate to that
Mm-hmm.
because when they had to do a major shift towards digital subscription from
Mm-hmm.
paper-based subscription,
Mm-hmm.
they created a team which was
Mm-hmm.
actually a mix of journalists and digital um, product managers.
Mm,
I thought they would just create a team of a bunch of engineers because it's all about digital, you know.
mm,
Um,
mm,
but actually, they didn't. They created a mix of team, and
mm-hmm.
this worked really well. Now they are,
Okay, it's
um,
interesting.
yeah, now they are a big digital news organization. Well,
Mm,
paper-based subscription still takes a major part of the revenue, but the
mm,
digital subscription it's rapidly increasing.
okay,
Um,
okay.
and actually, they continued doing this for a while. I
Uh-huh.
think they're still doing it, but they made a like internal program where
Mm-hmm.
journalists work in a digital team, uh,
Okay.
working with engineers, working with sometimes even with data scientists to create interesting content. So I think this the HR strategy really is contributing to the good content, and also as a result, it's still thriving as a company.
Hmm. Oh, that's very interesting.
Mm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think cross-functional interaction, I think it's really valuable, and I guess companies should promote this more and more. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know, like as an HR, what kind of like plannings or
Yeah,
strategies they can
sure. Let
take.
me let me share with you some, the potential solutions to foster cross-functional communications and innovation,
Hmm.
eventual innovation. As we've seen, HR and business leaders have a crucial role in creating and maintaining routes and networks
Yeah.
that foster the free flow of ideas and collaboration, right? Well,
Hmm.
when I say routes and networks, it's a bit kind of metaphorical. Well, probably they can physically create routes as well,
Yeah.
in inside office. But
Hmm.
anyway, it's important to note that employees should not be forced to interact with everyone, right? Like forcing them to interact with everyone is counterintuitive sometimes.
Hmm.
And it's not necessary to design and monitor every interaction.
Hmm.
Instead, HR and leaders should focus on designing and implementing an environment that facilitates a spread of good ideas through the employee network, similar to building a corporate culture.
Hmm.
Right. So that's their role, like design the environment.
Yeah.
So the question here is how HR and leaders can create such an environment.
Mm.
Right. There are several practices that can help achieve this. So let's explore a few of them.
Okay.
But when I said environment, it could be, the physical, right?
Hmm.
So firstly, the physical office space, much like the Silk Road in facilitating interactions among employees,
Hmm.
right? So if everyone in the office has isolated individual rooms, it can create significant physical and psychological barriers to communication and collaboration with colleagues,
Hmm.
let
Yeah.
alone those from other teams or functions, right?
Hmm.
So HRs and leaders should prioritize creating an office environment that encourages employee interactions,
Okay.
right? So, for example, the headquarters of IKEA in
Hmm.
Sweden provides a good example. Their office space is not only aesthetically beautiful, but also designed to promote formal and informal interactions among employees. And
Hmm.
it features a large meeting staircase that connects different floors. Well, I really suggest you to go to YouTube or photos or Google that. But this large meeting staircase serves as a central gathering space. And
Hmm.
additionally, the meeting area is strategically located on the ground floor next to open collaboration areas and a cafe
Hmm.
that foster further opportunities for employee interactions.
Okay.
So yeah, it's
That's nice.
really, yeah, you on nobody forced employees, but you cannot avoid interacting with other people.
It's
So
like
that,
office design kind of naturally encourages people to interact with each
yeah,
other.
exactly. So that's why I mentioned in the earlier that HRs and business leaders should focus on designing an environment instead of focusing on designing every interaction, right?
Hmm.
So,
Oh,
I have a
interesting.
question to you, Makoto. So
Yeah.
you've worked with several clients in Nordic countries in your previous job, right?
Right. Yeah.
Have you come across any interesting office spaces that encourage people interaction?
Yes. Yeah. I have visited H&M headquarters in Stockholm. Why is it always Swedish company? I don't know, but they have a nice design.
Right.
So in the H&M headquarters, there was a so right after you enter the main gate on the ground floor, there is a huge lounge. This lounge is it's like designed as a cafe. There are lots of benches and like a big staircase where people can actually sit on and
Mhm.
have a chat. There are also even like cushions placed on the staircase. And this lounge itself is also like an atrium. It's located on the ground floor, in the middle of the floor, and there's no ceilings. So from
Mm.
other floors, you can actually look down on the ground floor and actually see the lounge. And so it's
Okay.
really a very comfortable open space.
Mm.
I observed that a lot of employees were using this space for not only having coffees and but also having casual meetings, business meetings. I think it's really well designed and definitely fostering employee interactions.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Why is it
Yeah.
always a Swedish company?
Wow. Yeah, I think, their lifestyle, minimalism,
Hmm.
simple but sophisticated. I don't know what Swedish people think, but that's what I thought. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure that also Denmark,
Hmm.
these Nordic countries, have specific special vibe
Hmm.
to encourage this kind of human-oriented and then sustainable design.
I really like it. It's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
right. So
Hmm.
yeah, so as we saw, working in the same physical space is very important for building long-term culture, right?
Right.
That while short-term productivity may not be affected by a lack of physical interaction, so like we saw in the Silk Road and pre-Columbian Americas, it's very important to have a physical interaction,
Hmm.
especially for long term, right?
Yeah.
So that's why many business executives these days talk about the negative aspects of remote working, right?
Hmm.
Of course, it's a remote working provides a lot of the benefits to employees, like for example, if you have family and kids and you can sometimes stay home and take care of your family, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's really difficult to build a long-term culture.
Hmm. I
Um,
totally agree.
yeah. So, like we are not suggesting that every company should stop allowing employees to work remotely, right?
Hmm.
So it's a strategic choice, right?
Yeah.
So what I wanted to share with listeners is that to implement the remote working policy, we suggest considering the solutions to mitigate the disadvantage of remote work.
Oh,
You know,
okay. That I want to hear
yeah,
that because I'm fully on remote,
yeah,
but I prefer going to the
okay,
office quite on a regular basis.
right.
Um,
So
yeah.
actually, in my company, we most of us work in the office, so we
Hmm.
don't really have to do these kind of things. But I gathered several practices from from several countries on the internet, and also from my friends, the professional
Okay.
network. So the first one is a virtual meetups and social hours. Probably
Hmm.
you have done that before, and actually during the COVID we did that too. But
Yeah.
organize regular virtual meetups or social hours where employees can interact informally. These can include virtual coffee breaks or happy hours or themed events, or use these opportunities to celebrate milestone birthdays and work anniversaries.
Hmm.
So this is a very typical one, but especially in companies where majority of employees work remotely, I think it's important. And another thing is like mentorship programs.
Uh-huh.
Establish mentorship programs that pairs relatively newer employees with the more experienced employees. This can help foster relationship across different levels of the organization and different functions, right?
Hmm.
And also provide personal growth opportunities. So, this kind of body systems or, the pairing employees might
Yeah.
be helpful as well, right?
Mm.
So, while these solutions may not be as effective as casual coffee interactions in the office, the making these kind of efforts can help prevent a fully remote environment from
Hmm.
weakening your company's ability to build a future-proof organization,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
So, do you know any good practices in this regard? You said that, well, you actually work remotely now,
I
right?
experience everything like full office work to full remote.
Hmm.
Um, my definitely my preference is more towards the office work.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to go to the office every day. That's too
Uh-huh.
much. So some kind of mix would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, especially the virtual meetups, virtual team building activities. I did a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
my manager was super good at designing those kind of activities.
I see. I
Yeah,
see.
one of the things that I really liked is the virtual hackathon.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm an engineer, and my coworker's an engineer, but when everybody's in remote, people don't talk, right? They
Mm-hmm.
focus on coding and just come together for a very short period of time during the day to just catch up. Um, it's fine, efficient, but I wanted something more. And so my previous company, once in a quarter or something like that, they used to organize hackathon. We team up and yeah, like we build something together and together with the presentation slides, and we do presentation at the end, and the organizers decides the winner, and the winner gets actually a good prize like a PS5 or
Oh, okay.
yeah, or like tickets
That's good.
to yeah, very expensive French restaurant in Paris.
Mm,
Yeah, so it was a really nice,
mm.
motivative, and
I think it doesn't naturally happen, right? Someone has to take initiatives,
yeah, yeah,
or
definitely.
you need to have some sort of policy or guidelines to organize this kind of structures or
Yeah.
frameworks, whatever
Hmm.
you want to name it. But it's important to design an environment where people are encouraged to organize this kind of events, right?
I
So
agree.
I think this kind of effort is very crucial when you run a company where majority of people work remotely,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Okay, that's a very interesting example. So let me share here with you one HR framework. Have you heard of organizational network analysis?
No, what is it?
Let's say people analytics, the data science in a people human resources domain. We use this organizational network analysis, or
Mhm.
ONA. We use this concept quite often, right?
Okay.
So ONA is a data-driven methodology that visualizes connections and communications among members within organizations. The
Hmm.
analysis generates sociogram, right? So it's like bubbles, and it connects.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
they are connected
Yeah.
with the lines,
Yeah.
right? And then there are a lot of dots or
Hmm.
bubbles, right? So this illustrates relationships between individuals in the organization, right?
Interesting.
So this analysis provides very valuable insights. For example, it can help identify brokers.
Uh-huh.
Broker is a concept that it is individuals that bridge gaps between different groups or clusters within the network.
Uh-huh.
Like sometimes you have someone in your team who knows everyone outside your team, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this kind of people. So these
Oh,
brokers
okay.
are particularly important as they facilitate the spread of ideas and culture across different groups within the organization, right? So
Hmm.
when you conduct ONA, you can find out who are the brokers. Actually, when I was in an MBA program, we had organizational behavior course, which was very interesting, and we did this organizational network analysis.
Really?
Yeah, and then I remember that we don't know the individuals, but we knew nationalities of each participant,
Oh, okay.
right?
So it's anonymized to some
Yeah,
extent. Yeah, that's
but we
important.
know the nationality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So of
Yeah.
course,
Oh,
if
okay.
there are several nationalities that has only one person, right? In that case, they are grouped in one region,
Yeah.
right? So it's like let's say Romanians. Probably there are not many Romanian, so they are grouped in like Eastern Europe or
Hmm.
something like that,
Okay.
right? And then so the students were plotted like there are 100 to 150 students, and then we knew who are connected with who. So
Uh-huh.
we don't really know who they are, but we could guess. All
Yeah.
right. So it was very interesting because one, I think it was Colombian guy
Hmm.
and American guy and Lebanese girl.
Who were connected to everybody.
Yeah, they are like they are actually hubs.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
I wonder if there's a correlation between the nationality and the number of
maybe,
lines that they have.
maybe, yeah.
Maybe. Wow.
So,
Well, I
but
think
yeah,
as a
it's
data scientist, this is
mhm,
very interesting. You
right.
can get a lot of insights by analyzing the employee interactions and looking at the graph nose of
Hmm.
organizational tree and network. Um,
Yes.
it would be super interesting to analyze for example, like chat conversations that employees were having on the Teams chat, Zoom chat, I don't know, Slack. It would also
Mm-hmm.
be interesting to analyze calendar events, like which employees are having meetings with who. But I
Mm-hmm.
believe this is very tricky because of the
Yeah,
personal
yeah.
data protection.
Exactly, exactly.
But yeah, like as you brought up as an example, even anonymized data would be still very used.
Yeah,
It tells
yeah,
you a lot of
totally.
things. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I totally
yeah.
agree. And also, in the context of the Silk Road analogy, uh, brokers would be like merchants who travel from one village to another
Hmm.
and communicating new ideas to different people.
Oh
And
yeah.
with ONA, you can also identify disruptions in communication within your organization.
Uh-huh.
Often there are physical or psychological barriers that hinder effective communication between these groups. Right.
Oh, that's so
So,
interesting.
as you mentioned, conducting an enterprise-wide ONA requires significant effort and caution,
Hmm.
especially when personal data protection regulations become more and more strict. Right.
Yeah.
But then also, as you said, even if you don't conduct a formal research within your organization, just understanding the concept of a ONA can help you identify organizational issues and develop the best solution for your specific organization. Right?
Hmm.
You don't have to do it, but just knowing, who are brokers or who connect with who, and what are the disruptions.
Yeah.
Just thinking about this, just mapping out on a piece of paper,
Hmm.
will help you to analyze your
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting analogy to compare. I really like it, like Silk Road and employee interaction, labeling people as, oh, this guy's a merchant, and this guy's a um how would you label the Colombian guy in your class in the context of Silk Road? Is he a merchant?
Merchant.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I would say,
Um, yeah, I think, after listening to this podcast, I'm talking to the listeners, but you can probably think if your organization is like cities on the Silk Road,
hmm,
or as you brought up as a counter example, in the pre-Columbian Americas, are the teams in your organization isolated, like small villages that are surrounded by um, rocks and mountains, or individual meeting rooms? Um, if so, how can you encourage each village to interact with other villages? That's the challenge that you
hmm,
need to face. Or what kind of products, merchandises, or ideas are exchanged? Yeah, this analogy is really interesting. I think it's
hmm,
a very good point of view to think about as an HR professional.
hmm. Yeah, I would
So
agree.
probably we're coming close to the end, but it was a very insightful episode. And yeah, we are going to continue providing this kind of insights on and on and on, and hope you all enjoyed this episode. I will, and we'll enjoy the next one as well. Stay tuned.
Thank you very much for listening. See you next time.